The Maccabi Tel Aviv Aston Villa game in Birmingham erupted into chaos. Now, 11 arrests were made, all men and young boys, after there were clashes outside the Villa Park Stadium as a pro-Palestine demonstration took place. West Midlands police arrested 5 people on racially aggravated crimes. According to The Guardian, they claimed they overheard a police officer saying that the far right was present and said they had seen people swearing and making gestures at the Palestine protesters. Now, no surprise that some are claiming the Palestine protests are anti-Semitic. Jill Chant, 76, said she was shocked by the ban and came to the stadium to protest against the anti-Semitism and the banning of Israelis from coming to Birmingham. Her husband, Stephen Chant, 79, wore a Maccabi shirt and said he believed the ban was nothing to do with football, it's all to do with sectarian politics, to be precise, anti-Semitism. Isn't that exactly what they're doing? I mean, the idea that sectarian politics only comes from the Palestine wing is wild to me and patently not true. What about the sectarian politics of Israel? I mean, we literally have Labour friends of Israel, Conservative friends of Israel, the very powerful Israeli lobby. We have lots of people within the mainstream media and political parties and politicians that push a pro-Israel agenda. In fact, we had the Prime Minister stand with hooligans who have been violent, Tel Aviv Maccabi hooligans, right? Who are violent, who've chanted death to Arabs, who have a literal rape song, right? They were rightfully banned, and Keir Starmer, instead of standing with the people of Birmingham and the West Midlands police, right, he stood with Israeli football hooligans. And you want to talk about sectarian politics. Now, I do agree there is an element of sectarian politics when it comes to Gaza. I think the independent MPs who were elected largely won on that ticket. But guess what? It's not just Muslims. Everyone, I'd say most people cares when we're aiding and abetting a genocide. But I do find it funny when the mainstream media and people say, oh, it's sectarian politics because you're angry at ethnic cleansing and genocide, but no one talks about Israel and the fact that Israel has money behind them and does influence on politics. Think of America and AIPAC. But again, the media doesn't talk about sectarian politics in that way. Now, the right-wing media have been in overdrive, painting a narrative that the chaos is because of Muslims and pro-Palestine demonstrators.
What was your reaction to the events of the game last night?
I thought this was a shameful night for Britain, and thankfully the game and the surrounds passed off with relatively little violence. But to be clear, that was only because you'd had Jewish people being told that they simply were not allowed, Israeli Maccabi Tel Aviv fans, that they were not allowed to attend. And the sight of masked, fully quasi-military men in quasi-military gear chanting vile anti-Semitic slogans, effectively some of them going on a hunt for the Jewish team, trying to find which hotel they were in so that they could intimidate and harass them, bring shame on our country. And it needs to be a wake-up call for the political establishment, who I'm afraid to say, and I have count myself as part of this in the past, have simply closed our eyes and our ears to the level of segregation in some of our towns and cities, and the intolerance and hatred that has bred.
I mean, military men, people holding Palestine flags are military men. That clip felt like a bingo card of get in my talking points, whack, whack, whack. Now, that was Lord Walney with a litany of unsourced claims that they were chanting anti-Semitic abuse and were hunting down Jews. Now, this is what the Telegraph ran with. British Islamism is flexing its muscles more openly as it rises to power. Reform Deputy Leader Richard Tice shared the article, and he said, discrimination wins on shameful night at Villa Park. Anti-Semitism openly on display. Appalling. Now, Politics Joe did a series of Vox Pops. This is them asking Birmingham residents their thoughts.
This is England, it's Birmingham. If Palestine means that much to them, why don't they live there? This is a football match.
Well, it doesn't surprise me, know what the media in this country are like, but it's sort of been a bit over the top.
We're saying that FIFA have already decided to mix politics and sport by allowing Israeli teams to participate in UEFA and European competition. And that's one of the main reasons that we're out here.
Where FIFA and UEFA are concerned, they're a bunch of thieves. And I wouldn't trust anything that any of them did. But it shouldn't prevent us being able to come to a football match in Birmingham.
We're a football club, we've been drawn against an Israeli team. It happens.
The club have been made scapegoats for everything as to what's gone on, but actually they're blameless in the whole situation. They just want the game to go ahead.
It's not the players' fault, it's not the fans' fault. To me, to be honest, I don't think their fans should have been banned from coming.
The Maccabi fans are known for violence. There's videos on YouTube from Amsterdam where you could hear them chanting death to Arabs. What they represent is a wider hatred, and we're here to protest that, as well as the genocide.
First of all, every football club, including Villa, including Liverpool, my team, have bad eggs. Are Maccabi Tel Aviv uniquely evil? No.
It's just pure anti-Semitism. There's no other way to it. Labour is anti-Semitic through and through. Vote reform.
Navarro Media's Simon Childs also went to Birmingham and documented what happened.
Up the Villa!
So there's now a standoff between some Aston Villa fans and the pro-Palestine demonstration. Started when basically it seemed like Aston Villa fans started chanting Villa songs at the pro-Palestine march. So at first I thought it was a kind of let's keep politics out of football kind of frustration. But a little while ago they started chanting about Tommy Robinson. So maybe it's a slightly different vibe actually.
Now, other footage shows that demonstrators were just peacefully protesting.
Free Palestine! Free, free! Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Up the Villa! Up the Villa! Come on, Villa, we want 3 points tonight. Kick us tonight. This is a very important announcement. Just to let everybody know, this is a static protest. We are not marching. There are a few speakers, we're going to be chanting, we're going to make sure that the Villa fans can actually hear us. They are our friends, and tonight we support Aston Villa.
I do take issue with that. They said that you should support Aston Villa. They should have said you should support Liverpool. But given the context that Villa was playing Maccabi Tel Aviv, I'll give them a pass. Now, young Bob, a new far-right figure who has been gaining traction, attended the protest. And ironically, this video shows him being confronted by a white person, and it was a brown Muslim man that calmed tensions.
Solidarity, a message that the people of Birmingham are not going to. What are you doing here?
Filming.
No violence, no violence.
He has a right to be here. Doesn't matter. We're going to protect him. He's the Muslim. We're going to protect him.
No violence.
The man in question even said he had a right to be there, but Muslims are the problem. Now, some may be asking, why were there pro-Palestine protests there? Well, I personally think it was reasonable because we are hosting an Israeli football team. I think Israel should be banned from all sports. I agree with the gentleman in the Politics Joe video, including Maccabi Tel Aviv, is political in and of itself. Now, despite politicians and the media claiming this is about anti-Semitism, it's finally been confirmed what we knew all along. Significant hooliganism within Maccabi Tel Aviv fan base is reason for Aston Villa match ban. Owen Jones took to Twitter to blast Lisa Nandy, who claims this was an issue of anti-Semitism. The West Midlands police have confirmed that Maccabi Tel Aviv fans were banned because of racist hooliganism. Lisa Nandy claimed it was because of anti-Semitism against them and smeared those who told the truth as anti-Semitic. She should resign. I think Lisa and many others should resign. Stephen, what do you make all of this? I understand, of course, Navarro put out a piece with Simon Childs. You spoke to Simon earlier as well, so I think you might have some pretty good insights.
What do I make of it? I mean, I think it's a really good thing that Maccabi was banned. There was a ban. Actually, it's the club's management that then withdrew the opportunity for tickets from the fans, and I think that was the right choice. I think that, given that there were 700 police officers out last night, they made 11 arrests for a range of offences that included possession of drugs, ignoring a dispersal order. There was some one person I think arrested for racist abuse, but we don't know where they come from. I think that seems like a pretty good outcome. Pro-Palestinian protesters had a chance to protest, as is their right, outside the football game about the presence of Israel in international football leagues. Some Maccabi protesters got to come along and protest against what they feel is an unfair exclusion of their club, also their right. And football fans were largely football fans at the stadium, also their right. It seemed to me, what happened last night is in many ways not a story. What happened last night is just a kind of moment of that match is a moment where a lot of political currents in the UK crossed in an interesting kind of way. So you had the sort of pro-Zionist side of things. It was around, even though it wasn't present physically so much. You had the pro-Palestinian side of things, and then you had this sort of emergence of the far right amongst, I think, a fairly small number of football fans, actually, Aston Villa football fans outside the stadium. So all in all, a sort of microcosm of the country in lots of ways, and not a huge deal. I think what is a huge deal, though, what is a massive deal, is the fact that our politicians, ministers in our government, misled us about why that ban was in place. And they misled us in a particularly dangerous way. And I say misled, I mean, I really want to say lie. They lied to us because I don't believe that they had not seen the intelligence on which West Midlands Police was basing its operational decisions. So I think they probably did see that, and it was inconvenient for them, given their politics and their sort of particular affinity with Israel. And so they lied to us. And they lied to us in this dangerous way where they managed to smear West Midlands Police as being anti-Semitic. Keir Starmer called the decision to ban the Maccabi fans anti-Semitism. Lisa Nandy stood up in Parliament and suggested that it was residents of Birmingham, people who live there, who were the threat, and that the ban had been put in place to protect Maccabi fans. We know that that's not true. We know that there was certainly part of the consideration that the police made, but that the overwhelming reason why they chose to put the ban in place was because of the Tel Aviv fans being violent. And some of that intelligence came from Amsterdam, where there was a report in Middle East Eye that reported, I think amongst the crowds were 500 to 600 skilled fighters amongst the Maccabi fans. There were former IDF soldiers. There was a lot of violence that was instigated by those fans. And also the tearing down of Palestinian flags in Amsterdam, which would not be as big a deal in Amsterdam as it would be if it happened in certain parts of Birmingham. So, the police made an extremely, I think, wise decision, and the government decided to blame the police, call them anti-Semitic, and slander the good people of Birmingham as being risks to Jews who came to visit the city for a football match. That is outrageous. As I said on our show earlier, the sort of adults in the room view of the role of the state is that its primary responsibility is to keep its citizens safe. And yet, on this occasion, our government was prepared for reasons that are beyond everybody to allow the importing of dangerous fans into a community that would have been particularly dangerous, putting that community at risk. As I say, for reasons that we can't understand. The safety of the people of Birmingham was not at the forefront of our politicians' minds when they were criticizing this decision. And that is shocking. The lying to us and the disregard for the safety of the citizens of Birmingham, I think, are resigning offences. And I think Lisa Nandy should go, and I think Keir Starmer should go. They're both going to go anyways. It's just a matter of time. But, if they were honourable, I think they would really take a look at themselves and think, actually, I'm not fit to run this country.
I think you make a really good point where you say the protest last night wasn't a story, because whenever there's protest, you're going to get skirmishes, you're going to get arrests, right? The big story was the media framing this as something that's sectarian. We've used that word a lot today, actually, that this is about Islamism invasion. This is about, caring about other countries over this own country. That's the story. It's the way the media, in hoc with politicians who've whipped up that, right? Because they're still pushing the idea this is anti-Semitic. What I will say, though, is our own Prime Minister couldn't stand up for Birmingham, nor can Lisa Nandy and many other people. The one person who did, though, was Ayub Khan, the independent MP, who obviously represents Birmingham. And when he did, when this whole story first transpired, when it came to the ban, he received the most disgusting, horrific Islamophobic abuse from people who are so-called nationalists, which I find quite ironic, because he was standing up for the residents of Birmingham against a foreign football team. That's very interesting. But I think your point about what happened last night, that isn't the story itself. It is the wider media apparatus playing their role.